was like compiling, like pulling all my books that I read in March for this March wrap up, I was like, some of these books, they're gone from my memory. Like, it feels like I read them so long ago. But yeah, I read, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 books in the month of March. And as always, I will start with my favorite to my least favorite, my 5 stars to my 1 star. And yeah, let's just jump right into it. My absolute favorite book I read this month was The Princess Bride by William Goldman. There's even a little map at the front. I have, like probably most people, I've seen the movie. I have not read the book. So good, guys. If you have not read the book, I would highly, highly recommend checking it out. It's hilarious, really funny, very cleverly done. And it's just your classic fairy tale, but it's kind of like a book within a book. So, the author, William Goldman, is writing, like talking to us, saying that he adapted this story from the classic tale by S. Morgenstern. And then kind of like interspersed throughout the story, the author, William Goldman, is just talking directly to us, saying, oh, you know, I abridged this part of S. Morgenstern's story. I took out this part to make it flow better. S. Morgenstern spent like 50 pages talking about this boring history of whatever, and so I took it out, and blah blah blah. And so, it like genuinely seems like S. Morgenstern was this old fairy tale that the author found and adapted to become what we know as The Princess Bride, right? But the whole S. Morgenstern, like everything is fake. So like his portions talking to us, that's just all fictional as well. But it was just such a clever narrative technique. I feel like, you know, it makes it seem like he's breaking the fourth wall to talk to us, but that all of that is just fake as well. Like he talks about how his agent said, you know, no one's gonna care about this, or his ex-wife that he divorced told him blah blah blah. Like, it makes it seem really real, those parts. But yeah, it's just all fictional. The whole thing is fictional. Just very clever. And yeah, if you like classic fairy tale fantasy adventure stories, you've got to check this out. I absolutely loved. I feel like I rambled for very long about that, and I don't even know if I clearly articulated what I was trying to say, so hopefully I didn't just confuse you guys. But there's like toxic relationships and things like that. I feel like anytime there's a book like that, I compare it to Sally Rooney. But yeah, it's kind of in that vein. It's like a dark comedy about these like two couples, and their lives kind of get like intertwined. And yeah, they're all four of them are like very attractive, rich. They live in New York. And yeah, it's honestly, there's not really a plot. The writing is just very good, and the characterization of these people. Yeah, it just all works very well. And the author has reinvented the myth of Narcissus into like modern day retelling. Okay, my last 5-star book of the month is actually the book I just finished recently. That is The Great Man Theory by Teddy Wayne. Amazing cover, super colorful, super attention grabbing. So, Teddy Wayne only has a few books out. He has Apartment, which I loved, Loner, which I hated, and then I have not read these two, The Love Song of Johnny Valentine and Capital, and this is his newest one. I think it just came out not that long ago. Yeah, it came out last year, I think like late last year, but anyway, this is another one of those books that is just so smart, so witty, like very satirical, dark comedy. The author makes a lot of observations about society, like very snarky and sharp observations about society and America and culture and stuff like that. And so, in this book, our main character, Paul, is like this 47-year-old divorced father of like a preteen girl. He is a lecturer at a college, like not a prestigious college, just like third-rate college. But just everything in his life starts to go wrong. And he's working on writing this book. And he's a very, very, like, politically liberal guy. But he judges everybody. Like, he hates young people, he hates technology, and then he hates old people for being, like, you know, too traditional and antiquated. And he just thinks he's like above everybody, and so he's not a very likable character. Actually, none of Teddy Wayne's characters are likable, but you kind of like are rooting for him at the same time. And the like last third of the book actually is kind of crazy and like thrillery almost, and I was just like flipping the pages. I had to know what happened. But yeah, I would recommend checking this out. It takes place during like intentionally so, and it's just very smartly done. Okay, next is my only 4-star read of this month, actually, and that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This is also like a really cute cover. It's just like a naked hardback. Has like flowers and mushrooms all over it. This is totally right up the alley of cozy fantasy, which I love. Love cozy fantasy. And it is about this professor named Emily Wilde. She's very grumpy, very antisocial, and also like socially awkward. Doesn't really get along with people, kind of just likes being in her own world. And she's working on like a comprehensive encyclopedia of fairies. So she's like one of the top researchers in that field. And she moves for like research. She moves to this like small isolated town, and her coworker, also like research nemesis Wesley, is his name Wesley? Oh, it's not Wesley. Wesley is from Princess Bride. Wendell Bamblebee. He's like her total opposite. Super cheerful, bubbly, everybody loves him. He comes and joins her on this trip, and she's like hating it, but secretly loving it. And yeah, just stuff happens with the fairies and people in this town going missing, and then obviously like a relationship developing between Emily and Wendell. And yeah, it's just very cozy read. And there's going to be a second one. I think even in the back of this one it said, Emily will be back in book 2, or something like that. Yeah. The story of Emily Wilde and Wendell Bamblebee will continue in book 2. So I'm excited for book 2. Okay. On to the 3 stars. This is like the bulk of my reads this month. So, topping my 3-star list is How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie. Now this book, I feel like in the first third it was fully going to be like a 5-star book for me, and then it kind of just started dragging a bit, like it was really unnecessarily long. How long was it? It's not even like that. It's 354 pages, which, like, in the grand scheme of things is not that long. But for this story, it felt kind of long. It started getting a bit repetitive. But it is about our main character named Grace. And she was raised by a single mom. And when her mom dies, she realizes that her biological dad's side of the family is super rich, and that they knew she was born and that the mom was pregnant. When her mom was pregnant, she went to them for help, like financial help, and they turned her away and they were like, leave us alone. And so Grace finds that out after her mom dies, and she decides she wants to murder everybody on that side of the family. So it follows that. It was quite funny, but obviously dark humor because it's about murder. like tongue-in-cheek, and just the main character has like no shame. She's also obviously not the most likable, even aside from being a murderer. She's just not that likable of a character. But, it was interesting, especially the way she narrates the story. It is also very British, if you know what I mean, in terms of like the writing style and kind of the tone, the humor of it. If you know, you know. Okay, next 3-star book was The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan. I don't know what it is with like a lot of these books, but again, really strong start. Was fully going to be a 5-star book, and then the second half just was getting so repetitive and kind of boring and dragged out. And also, I feel like the beginning was just so smart, and there was just a lot of commentary that was really interesting. But then it took a weird turn, like a weird turn. Okay, so it is about a mother named Frida, who is Chinese American, and her ex-husband is white. And basically, I mentioned that because it plays into some themes of the story. But yeah, they have like an infant child, and the child gets taken away by Child Protective Services, and so Frida is trying to get her back, and the judge sentences her to a year at the School for Good Mothers. Very 1984, like Big Brother vibes here. And up until that point, and even when she's at the school in the beginning, it's really, really interesting. But then she's at the school for a year, right? And just that whole portion of the book, it was getting boring. I feel like I was reading the same thing, kind of, just for 150 pages. I don't know if maybe a lot of that wasn't necessary. Maybe it was. I don't know. I just know that it kind of dragged for me for that part. And then the end, when she gets out, was just so fast. Like 5 pages, it felt like. And I wish we had gotten more of that instead of such a big chunk when she's at the school. But anyway, yeah, it's very insightful. Has a lot to say about motherhood, obviously, but mothers specifically, and how they're kind of treated by society versus how fathers are treated. And it has a lot to say about, I think, like, the government and the authorities. And yeah, I did quite enjoy it though, overall. Okay, next book I rated 3 stars was The Book of Mormon Emptiness by Ruth Ozeki. So she's the author of A Tale for the Time Being, which I absolutely loved. It was like 5 out of 5 stars for me. sounds from objects, like inanimate objects, and like he cannot block out the sounds of these voices, and he kind of starts losing it. But what's interesting is you don't really know truly whether he's actually hearing these voices or if he's having like a mental breakdown. Well, it's very clear that he is kind of having a mental breakdown, dealing with the grief and stuff. Like, he gets put into counseling, into the psychiatry ward, starts taking a bunch of medication, and so, yeah, even as the reader, you don't really know what's going on, which I think was purposeful, and I don't know, I think the reason why it wasn't like more than 3 stars for me was because there were some side characters that I didn't care about, but Benny like cared a lot about them, and so we spent a lot of time with them, and I didn't think they added much to the story. I kind of wished it had just focused on Benny and his mom. The parts with his mom were super interesting. I actually liked those parts more. But yeah, overall good read. She's a great writer though. It is kind of a long book though for what it's about. It's 548 pages. It probably could have been like 200 pages less. Okay, next book was People Person by Candice Carty-Williams, who is the author of Queenie. Queenie was like super popular maybe like 2 years back or so. Now this book I don't want to give too much away. Let me see. Okay, yeah. So I won't say the reason, but there is an event that causes 5 half-siblings to come together, okay? So same dad, had 5 children with 5 different women, and they only meet, one time when they're kids. He's a horrible father. His intentions are good, but he's just absent in their lives and cares more about himself than anything else. But he brings them all together when they're young, one time, and then decades pass, and now they're in their 30s, and they reunite because of an event. But yeah, it's pretty funny. Sorry, I thought I heard something. Okay, I'm distracted. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so one of our main characters, Dimple, she's our primary main character. The story is told from her perspective and everything. But the reason why I did love this book, I liked it, siblings are so much more interesting, but she is the main character. And I think I would have liked it more if we got less of her and more of the other siblings. Okay, next. Can you guys hear that? Okay, whatever. Next 3-star book. All That's Left Unsaid by Tracy Lean. This was very sad. It is about a girl named Key who returns home. So it takes place in Australia. She returns home after the murder of her teenage younger brother. And she's trying to figure out what happened. He got beaten to death at a restaurant. And there were several people at the restaurant, and no one claims to have seen anything. Like, no one has talked to the police or said anything. And so she kind of goes on this mission to figure out what happened. And so it is a story about grief, but it's also her family are refugees that escaped the Vietnam during the Vietnam War and came to Australia, settled in Australia. And I did not know this, but apparently there was like a lot of hate. It also takes place in the 90s, but there was a lot of hate towards these refugees at this time. And so it's about the Vietnamese Australian community. It's about the plight of these refugees. It's about like the heroin epidemic that ravaged these communities at the time. So it is very moving. The reason why it wasn't like more star rating for me was because, again, like the main character, she was just not the best part of the story. Like, I hate when that happens. Like, every other part of the story was so much more interesting. Every other character was so much more interesting than she was. And yet, she's the main character, so we spend the most time with her. I also felt like the author couldn't really decide if she wanted this book to be a murder mystery or like a social exploration of, you know, those aforementioned issues. But I don't know, she kind of tried to seamlessly weave both of those themes in, but they kind of felt very separate. Like, it would be murder mystery, and then she would switch to talking about the refugees, then back to murder mystery, then back to the community. Like, I feel like they should have flowed better. is The Reading List by Sarah Nisha Adams. So, this book is about a reading list, like a random list of books that there are like copies of that list like kind of everywhere, like mysteriously, and different people find this list and start reading it, and it kind of like unknowingly brings a lot of these people together. And yeah, I guess it's kind of a story about the power of books and like human connection, friendship, community, that kind of thing. I did enjoy it a lot. I think it's hard to like describe exactly like why it wasn't like the best book for me. I guess I didn't really connect to any of the characters that much. Like I did kind of on a surface level, but I wish we had gotten to know them more. And I think that would just be, for me personally, because I think a lot of people read this book and connect very heavily with these characters. But yeah, I don't know, there's just something that I didn't fully connect to. It was almost like the author was trying really hard to make this book very poignant and meaningful and deep, but it just didn't quite hit the mark for me. But again, I think it would work for a lot of people. Okay, on to the 2 stars. So my first 2-star read. The Atlas Paradox by Olivia Blake. Sorry if I seem distracted, guys. I keep hearing like a car outside playing music really, really loud. Okay, so this is obviously the sequel to the Atlas 6, and it felt kind of pointless. Like what am I saying? She's coming out with a 3rd book, I think this year or next year, and this is clearly just a filler for that book because it was nothing happened. It's pretty long too. It's long and nothing happened. Like, imagine, I feel like the content developments, plot and character-wise, that were in as what she created herself. But yeah, it's all because of all the characters and all their powers. It was kind of confusing as well. Like, I couldn't remember what happened in the first book, and this book does zero job of reminding you of like who the characters are, what their powers entail. I don't know. That being said, I still enjoyed the writing itself, which is why it wasn't like a 1-star book for me. But yeah, I'll read the third one because this is obviously just an unnecessary filler between the first and the third, but not the best. Okay, next 2-star book. Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. This book, probably the least likable female character I've ever read. Like, ever. Just despicable, disgusting, like, irredeemable in every way. So, yeah, the main character's name is Irina. And she takes, like, explicit photos of men, but, like, not good-looking men, just, like, random men she finds on the street or, like, runs into on the bus. She'll just be like, hey, I want to get your picture taken. And, you know, they'll say yes, and she takes pictures of them. She was like an aspiring, what do you call it? Like gallery, like her art is shown in galleries and stuff, but she's not that successful. And it's just like, she's just embroiled in this world of like drugs and men and just like in a downward spiral. And then she has this best friend who she treats horribly, and like she clearly knows that this girl, her best friend, is like in love with her and stuff, and she kind of like takes advantage of it. And there actually was like a shocking twist later on in the book that I was not expecting. But again, you're basically just reading about a girl just ruining her life. And, you know, I'm all for like sad clearly has like a lot of self-esteem issues that she's like working through, but also not really trying to work through. I don't know. I don't know. Oh my gosh. I almost knocked down the microphone. Sorry if that scared anyone. Okay, on to my one Starbucks. I have two one Starbucks. The Boy with the Bird in His Chest by Emmy Lund. This one, oh god, like, I think it was just a very, very poor execution. It is about a boy. He has a literal bird in his chest, like, between his, I can't remember where exactly, like, between the first rib and, like, his lung, I don't know, it's in his chest, and it, like, protrudes out, and it can, like, talk, like, it, not just to him, like, it can talk to anyone, and the mom, because of this, like, hides her son away, never lets him leave the house and stuff, until one day, something happens, and she's like, you know what, I was so protective of you for your whole life, but now I'm gonna leave you with your uncle, and you're just gonna start going to private school, and then he, like, never sees his mom again. I don't know, it was just dumb, but anyway, I think the bird is supposed to be some kind of, like, allegory, or, like, it's supposed to symbolize something about this boy, and, like, him coming of age. No, it did not work well as a plot device or a narrative device. Like, it was pointless and very annoying. The bird itself is so annoying, and, like, I don't know, it was just so pointless. So, no, I didn't like it. Sorry guys, I just realized this video is so long, so I'm gonna, like, I also don't want to, like, hate on any book, especially because, you know, everything is subjective, so just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not for someone else. Like this book. I'm sorry guys, this might, like, I'm sorry if you like this book. It's probably one of the worst things I've ever read. So it's non-fiction, and it's kind of just a bunch of essays, I guess, about love by Bell Hooks. I think I've read worse things in, like, a magazine for 13-year-old girls. Like, I don't know if she thinks she's, like, very insightful and deep or something, but it just came off all so cliched and so not meaningful or anything. Like, I really didn't like it, and I actually disagreed with quite a lot of stuff she had to say.